Hi everybody, welcome to another episode of Lines in Wax. Today we're going to be ranking the studio albums of the death metal, grindcore, Gava techno project, the Berzerker. Berzerker's had various iterations over the years. It's been, a one-man techno project. It's been like a studio grindcore project, and it's been a fully-fledged touring death metal band. In the time they were active, from the late 90s all the way through to probably best part of 10 to 12 years, something like that, I think. And in that time, they did 5 studio albums. We're going to rank those today from worst to best. If you're interested in more of the history of the Berzerker and their full trajectory as it was from start to finish, I have another video called, what's it called? It's called the Berzerker Complete Discography Retrospective. That's what it's called. And you can find that on my channel. I'll link it below as well. But for now, let's rank the Berzerker albums from worst to best. Starting with, in worst place, in 5th position, is the final album, The Reawakening. Easily my least favourite Berzerker album. This came after a short break in the band's career, I guess. It kind of, there was like this upward kind of trajectory, and after which there was this kind of plateau, and then they went back to basics. They changed the lineup completely new lineup, and they came back with the Reawakening. It honestly isn't the best thing by a country mile. The main contributors on this were Luke Kenny, obviously, as always, and of course there was Ed Lacey on guitar as like the main kind of the songwriter, I guess. It's not really a slight at the songwriting. It's just the mix is kind of awkward. It's not as good, and it's not as sound as it was on the previous albums, which is a shame. It was mastered by Russ Russell as well, who did the previous album, but it just doesn't compare. It just isn't as good in any way, shape, or form as a death metal album. It's not terrible by any stretch, but as far as the Berzerker's output goes, this is by far the one that stands out as being a bit it's not. There's nothing about it that really jumps out at me. All the songs, some of them are a bit long and they're a bit sluggish, which for something like the Berzerker is not something I would ever expect to say. But I mean, realistically, they're not that long. It's just they feel long, which is never a good thing. And also, the album came with all these remixes tacked on. I remember this happening. They were they were sourced out through like fucking MySpace. Like people were asked on MySpace to do these remixes and stuff. And I think there's Delta 9 on there, and there's probably some other guys that are more well known. But some of those remixes were just dreadful, and it's just like it just made that album, the whole album of the Reawakening, just feel like a task to get through it. It takes forever to get through it, and it's not very good, and that's why I'm not a fan. In 4th place is World of Lies, which is a more streamlined, a more melodic is, as I said in the discography retrospective video, melodic is probably the wrong word, even though some of these riffs do have that edge to it. It's just that it kind of streamlines the Berzerker's sound. World of Lies takes all that crazy mental grindcore stuff at least that element of things, and removes it. So basically what you've got with World of Lies is death metal with Gabba techno drums over the top of it, which on paper doesn't sound like a particularly good idea, but World of Lies is great. And the only reason it's at the bottom end of this list is that the Berzerker do have better albums. I like the World of Lies. A lot of people, I think it's split a lot of people. I remember when it came out and people were, like, oh, they've sold out, man. It's nowhere near as fucking good as the old shit. And, but, we were really young at this point, and maybe I was in like my mid-teens and arguing with people about what was the most brutal thing in the world was what we did. But I've always liked World of Lies. If you look at the single, like a single called All About You, and you compare that to, like, I don't know, the song Reality, yeah, I can see what people are saying. They've definitely changed direction, but that doesn't make World of Lies a bad album? It's very streamlined, and it's got its sound, it's got its vision, and it does it. All of the songs are not more or less the same, but they are part of that vision. They're part of that end goal. So it goes back to, at least from my perspective, you can listen to this whole thing start to finish and enjoy it as a whole, as an album, and that's what I like to do. So I like it. The only really strange thing about this is the final track, which is like this 20-minute fucking doom metal kind of loop with this synthesizer over the top of it. And for the first maybe 5 or 6 minutes, it's actually pretty nice and it's a refreshing change. But then it runs for 20 minutes and you're like, why is this happening? But yeah, it goes on for a bit too long. But other than that, it's pretty good. As a rule, World of Lies is great. It's probably the more, like I said, basic, more streamlined of their stuff. But it's still absolutely great. In third place is Animosity. For me, Animosity is like World of Lies, but improved. You've got World of Lies with better production. Yeah, that's a good start. It's slightly better production. The songs don't feel as like cut and paste and put together as well. On top of that, and you get more of that like anger, that crazy, like a slightly rabid, crazy edge to the older stuff seems to be back. Not that it was missing on World of Lies, but it was more contained. On Animosity, you get that kind of like craziness return into the fray. So you've got the polished, well-made, streamlined death metal, but this time the rabid anger is coming through. The grindier elements are back. You've got tracks like Eye for an Eye or Heavily Medicated. They're just absolute bangers. And all the songs hover, well, not all of them, most of them hover around the 2.5 minute mark. So they're really fast, absolutely crazy, lightning bolt death metal with some grindcore elements. Russ Russell, like I said about the Reawakening, he was like involved in this, at least with mastering it, which is great, and it sounds amazing. It sounds way better than the Reawakening did. And yeah, this is like, if you've never heard the Berzerker, like and maybe Gabba techno and all the mad industrial or grindcore elements kind of put you off checking out some of the other stuff, then this is probably the best place to start. It just fucking does not fuck around. It is brutal death metal with fucking crazy electronic drums. It's perfect for that. In second place, and this was a difficult one, in second place is the band's self-titled album, the first album they ever did, The Berzerker, the one that took so many years to put together. It was an absolute task. It went through so many different iterations. What you end up with is with this jumbled mess of, just carnage. You've got not just Gabba techno drumming and death metal and grindcore guitars. You've got all these weird, like industrial and even noise elements to things, all just falling over each other, and with these disturbing samples and these crazy vocals, like the Carcass vocals, You got the Bill Steers growling lows, then Jeff Walker's like raspy kind of melodeath highs, dialed up to like 6,000 in their craziness here. It's not as crazy as like early county medical examiners, but it's still pretty crazy. And you mix all of this together in one giant unmixed, unmastered melting pot, and you've got the Berzerker, which means it's a very inconsistent album, but it also means it has some of the best elements that the band has ever done. To be honest, I think that'll be why I can't put this at number one. I have a softer spot for this, I think, than I do the number one pick, but this is very inconsistent. It's very messy. It's very muddy, but it's an absolute stone cold classic. And to be honest, for me personally, was a game changer when I heard this about what brutal and what heavy music is, and it has all these electronic elements to it. You know what I mean? It doesn't necessarily need to be like 100% real, drums and analog shit. It can be all this crazy, nasty electronic stuff as well. And it's just disgusting. Tracks like Reality, Forever, Burnt, Slit Down, Deform. I could just go on and on and on and on. I as an angsty teenager, the track February was just like, yes, this guy understands me. But like now, as I've got older and I'm in my 30s, looking at the lyrics for February, I do kind of cringe out a bit, that grown men were writing these lyrics. But, it's still really good and it's really powerful. And I love this album. It's really good. But it doesn't quite make the number one spot. The number one spot goes to, of course, Dissimulate, which is the perfect recipe, the perfect storm, as it were, as it comes when it comes to the Berzerker's music. You've got all that carnage that I was just talking about, all that raw, undistilled, messy chaos from like the early days, finally gets captured in a glass, in a crystal glass. Like, let's take all that raw chaos and put it in here, and then we'll filter it somehow so it sounds digestible. I mean, it's not. In some regards, if you're listening on like some sort of subpar listening device, like you can't play this through your phone speaker, because this thing has gabba techno drumming, like that like proper distorted kick, but it's attached as a trigger to a real drum kit, which is played by a real human who is drumming at the speed of fucking sound, and like it just completely envelopes everything. Unless you've got something that you can listen on with, like, tidy headphones or something, or more good quality earpieces, you're going to struggle with this. But if you can actually listen to it, then Dissimulate is outstanding. The songwriting is saw Matt Wilcock come on board on guitar. Not to discredit the other guys who were involved previously. I'm not saying that at all. But like, this is the perfection. This is the perfection of the Berzerker's craziness. It's got that unhinged carnage meeting like technical precision, and it is like, if you like the precision of stuff like Fear Factory, but you wish it was like a 10 million times heavier and not more crazy, than Dissimulate is it's the one for you. It just goes so hard that I can't sell it. I feel like I'm going around in circles with my keywords, but like, this fucking thing goes so hard from start to finish. It's absolute chaos, and it's like one of the heaviest albums ever made, and it's one of the best albums ever made, and I cannot recommend it enough. So yeah, fairly short video today, a short one for me at least, because I usually tend to ramble and go on and on and on, but that's it, man. That's the Berzerker ranking sorted out. Stay tuned. I'll have some more videos coming soon in the new year. Take it easy out there. Check out the Berzerker if you've never heard them. If you've never heard them when you're watching this video, what's wrong with you? Sort it out. I'll speak to you soon. Have a good one. Ta-da now.